I'm a big time Rex Krueger fan, and I have bought a handful of his plans, but I've never built one. Recently though, I decided to make his bench saw. However, this time I did not buy the plan, and I did build it, kind of. I think I found my top. It's really flat. I just found this. That's my straight edge. I have a truck, but I brought my car in order to see if I could fit it all in my little car. So this select board, 6 foot long, fits in my car, and then the 2x4, I cut it in half and it fits down here. This Home Depot run was about $30, $20 for the top that you see me cutting right now, and about $4 for the 2x4, and about $4 for some liquid nails. I think that's pretty cheap. However, the top that Rex Krueger uses is made out of two 2x6s, and you know, it will create a thicker top. I don't have a nice plane. I have a plane, but I can't get it to work very well. So I just bought the flattest piece of select pine I could find. And the plywood that I'm using for the battens is a piece of plywood I already had and that I have used for many other projects. When you first see it, it's got all kinds of random pieces cut off of it. That's because I used it a lot. So yeah, right now I'm measuring it out for my battens. And Rex Krueger, this is the only photo he gives you during the whole video. And like I said, I've bought his plans before. They are beautiful plans. They're very detailed. It's almost like a little magazine. If he sold a magazine like thing with a handful or like a lot of his plans, I think I would buy that in a physical form because they are very pretty. I don't know why I decided not to buy them. It would have been very helpful. He gave me some measurements, so I followed those measurements. It didn't give me a length, just the width at the top and the width at the bottom. So that's what I use here. And yeah, he uses just straight up pine. I'm using plywood. He uses hand tools. I'm using straight up the skill saw somebody gave me for free like 10 years ago. It's time for me to cut my legs to rough length. I kind of got my length by kneeling on a chair that I liked and then measuring the height of that chair. Again, I use my circular saw. So it's what I have. So all I do is put a speed square on one side and then cut it. And watching this video right now and looking at me do it, I do it just by instinct, but I'm not even sure that that square is square. So this is where I commit one of my biggest mistakes in this project right now, and is thinking that I can glue the battens on and screw them and then cut the top of the legs to the angle of said batten. It did not work out at all. Also, here my daughter showing me her outfit. So yeah, here I go, screwing down my battens with my Makita drill, and I use wood screws with very little head so that they recess by themselves without using a recess bit. And I know these screws. That's why I didn't pre-drill it or nothing. I just know these screws. I've screwed thousands of things with these things by now. This is where it goes wrong. I shouldn't have done this. I'm trying to hold my... Perhaps with a different saw I could have done it, but with my current resources, this was not a good idea. I should have done it the way Rex Krueger said in his video, to just mark it with an angle gauge, which I don't have an angle gauge. It's not a handyman tool thing to have. I have different things to get angles, but not an angle gauge. Long story short, after this I bought an angle gauge thing, and it's really nice, and I should be getting it soon. I go ahead and do the other side the same way because I like suffering, I guess. So far, my experience with this build has been fairly positive with how cheap it is to make this thing, for how incredibly well and descriptive the video is. But when it comes to like me using hand tools and thinking I know how they work, that's another thing. That's a little rough. But here I use a pull saw to make the piece of wood that the top is going to be screwed down to, and then I use my mallet to hit it in place, and then I screw it to the battens, and that way I can have some nice clean wood to screw my top into. And now it's time for like the side pieces. I do not know what they're called, and I had this 1x2 laying around, so I cut it in half and decided this is how long my legs are gonna be. Because that's the material I had, and for some reason I also decided to round the edges on it. I actually end up rounding everything over, but it actually looks pretty good. I like that aesthetic. Right now I'm marking where I'm deciding those side pieces are gonna go, and this is a mistake. This seems like a mistake. If you look at Rex Krueger's saw bench and you see mine, you're gonna be like, that's a mistake. Those need to go where the battens are, and it's all like nice and boxy. Well, this is a mistake for sure, but I liked it. I liked it because I can blow out the whole little shelf from one end, and then it goes out the other end, and it works out perfect. I just take out all my tools, and then I blow out all the freaking sawdust and shavings and stuff off of my shelf and top, and I'm good to go. The reason I can do that is because I work outside. Is it a mistake? Yes. Is it as aesthetically pleasing as Rex's? No. Is it functional? Absolutely. And that's what this little thing is. Ultimately, I do like how it came out and like the look of it. I do wish I would have bought the plants. And in fact, the second one I built, because Rex recommends we build two of them, the second one I built, I will buy the plan, and then maybe I'll compare them. But I'll make it the same height, because this is the perfect height. As you guys can see, like cutting with my skill saw on this little saw bench is extremely pleasant. It's very nice. Like right now I'm just kneeling on it, perfectly kneeling, putting all my weight on the piece and just cutting away at the shelf that's gonna go underneath it. I'm really liking it. The shelf too, it gives it like that extra like piece of refinement. By the time I make this video, I've been using this bench everywhere, and I'm just cutting that little shelf so that it fits in where I need it to go, and I'm using the material itself as the reference that I'm using rather than measuring it, and it always works out because you're using reality as your measurement rather than a measurement as a measurement. And yeah, to cut it, yeah, I just use my square to follow those lines that I built earlier, and then I use my skill saw to cut those lines. I go on ahead and use just way too many screws to hold that top in there because there's nothing else holding it. Perhaps on my next design I can have it like notch into the legs, but I would still like just over glue the crap out of it and use some liquid nails, because like as a woodworker, it's just a worker in general, you're gonna overload everything with tools. Like I said, I've been using this a lot, and yeah, I've overloaded it already. I'm 220 pounds, so I'm on it. Well, I'm on the top, but then like the bottom shelves just got like way too many tools on it. But yeah, I'm using this ripping notch on my top, and I'm pretty sure it's to make your top faster. And then my handle, instead of going with like the general circle thing, I just grabbed a piece of mahogany I had. And yeah, I built a little square handle instead of a rounded one. I just wanted it to be a little bit different. And obviously I go ahead and round that handle too. And it's actually very comfortable. Very, very comfortable. I don't know what size it is. I just know it works. And the other thing, like I said, my top is actually thinner than Rex's top. So what I do is my cutoff, I cut a couple pieces off of it. I think they're like 8 inches. And I cut 45 degrees cuts on each side, so you can't see them as much. But then I screw them and glue them to my top from the bottom. The screws I'm only using as like a temporary clamp, because I take those out later. And this, I'm hoping, is giving it some more rigidity to my top and a little bit more mass. And I'm also hoping, like, because I used the grain going up and then the grain going down, that it stays flat longer. And I also thought that it would be thick enough that I can drill a 3/4 inch hole and use my fast holds on them. But I ended up deciding not to do that because I didn't think it was thick enough at all. I was like, you know what, 1.5 inches isn't thick enough. I think I need at least 2 inches. But yeah, here I'm testing it. By now I've been using this thing a lot, and I've been on it, like on it a lot, jumping around in it and stuff. I go for a black bottom. The reason being is because, you know, I'm using miscellaneous plywood and miscellaneous wood that was already painted. And the other reason is because I work outside, and this outdoor exterior black paint I know will make this pine last a long time. Like I said, I have a pergola that you guys see. That thing's gonna be there like long after I'm out of this house. And a lot of structures I've built out of construction lumber that are just painted and they're outside are gonna last a long time. Perhaps longer than I will last. This was my experience building something I watched on YouTube without the plans and how it went for me. It went well. I like it. It was very functional. Thank you, Rex Krueger, for suggesting building this thing and for making such a good, detailed video. Next time I will buy the plan, just because I like supporting other people, because I know how much work making a video is. Like I said, I've bought plans before, but I never built them. I do want to build his California bench. I built a bench for my daughter a while ago. It has an epoxy rivet on it. It has like dovetail inlays. It's got compound angles. It came out really nice. It's all walnut and maple and like white oak. And but because I built it just like the way I thought things are built, it looks extremely nice. But it's not great. So I like to build her a different little stool, and perhaps I build that, or perhaps I'll build something that you guys suggest down in the comments, or if you guys suggest to build something else without the plans, I will go ahead and give it a try. But this was the video. Like and subscribe.